everyone, how you doing today? My name's Kirsty and this is my wrap up for June 2023. If you're not already aware, I ran my first ever readathon in June. It was called Adventurer-a-thon and it was fantastic. There was lots of people chatting on the Discord. We had some live sprints. There were a few issues with my health that meant I did have to rearrange a few times for sprints. But everyone was really lovely about it and patient, and nobody sort of seemed really mad. I then opened up a feedback form at the end of it and I got some really lovely feedback, but I'm going to do a video with talking about how the Adventure-a-thon went and that side of things, with some stats and the giveaway and all of that. I'm going to release as a separate video. But this is obviously my June wrap up, and as always I will be just talking about, starting off with the books that I didn't complete, any DNFs that I might have, books that I'm carrying over into my next month's reading, and then onto the books that I finished and have rated. And then I'm thinking, let me know in the comments what your thoughts are on this, but I'm thinking about maybe starting to do a section of my wrap-ups that are any hauls that I've done this month, because normally I do my haul videos as separate videos. But I don't know, maybe would you prefer, do you think I should stick with doing my hauls as a separate video? Or would you find it quite interesting that after I've wrapped up the books that I've read, I then at the end of the video talk about the books that I've collected? Although for June, there's over 60 books because of Stuff Your Kindle Day. Well, Stuff Your e-reader day. Sorry, I may have gone a bit overboard. And I will be, again, doing a separate video with every single one of those books to talk about and just go through what I've hauled. In terms of last month's reading, I had 6 books that I started and didn't get around to finishing. So on the 1st of June, I did live sprints to kickstart the readathon, and I started Bloodmark by Tracy Deonn. I got halfway through. You can see I'm kind of enjoying it by just how many tabs there are in this thing. I kind of got halfway through and then lost steam. And I never quite got round to picking it back up because it isn't a book that I want to just read in little tiny bits. I want to sit and read a massive chunk in one go. I also got about a third of the way through Dark Rise by C.S. Pacat, about a quarter of the book actually. I was really enjoying this, but it fell on a week because this was a group read that I was doing, and you can see I had all my dates planned out for it and everything. Yeah, it fell on a week where unfortunately I was working, and then I had, I think 4 days in a row I had things going on, and I again ran out of steam on it and just didn't get around to finishing it. But again, I was really enjoying this, and I've discovered I really like C.S. Pacat's writing. So I am eager to continue with this one. We had God of Neverland by Gamma Ray Martinez, and I started it. I have gotten to 10 pages in, so I'm on the 3rd chapter. It's not hooking me in so far, and I'm not sure, from things that I've seen and heard about this book, I'm not sure it is going to be for me. But I will continue it to see, but I just don't know when I'm going to continue it. But I would like to get to this sometime in the next couple of months. And then the final one is one that I'm really annoyed at myself for, but it's Dark Shade of Magic by V. Schwab. You can see I got 4 pages in. Oh, and then the last one was The Malevolent Seven by Sebastian de Castell, which was an audiobook. I started it because I was doing a buddy read with Paige. Unfortunately, Paige got hooked on it and just sort of blasted ahead, and I just was like, well, I'll take my time and get to it. It wasn't a problem. I was just like, well, I'll just take my time. I will get to it when I get to it. And then I just completely forgot to get to it. But yeah, those are the DNFs. They didn't finish, but I'm continuing. I had no DNFs, which was awesome. I nearly did, but I did persevere. So yeah, let's move on to the actual finished books. And this was a good month for me for audiobooks in particular. I've gotten into a habit of getting a habit, which is great. Most nights now I'm going to bed sort of between 8 and 10 p.m. and then I will put my headphones in, and it started off with just this one little pad, and we now have all of these. So I'm just in my little era of doing puzzles and listening to audiobooks while doing them for about 2 hours every night before bed, and It's really, really, really helping me not only to wind down at night and to not be on my phone, but it's also helping me actually get some more audiobooks, and I'm starting to really enjoy audiobooks even more than physical reading, which is awesome. But in June, I completed 8 books in total. Of those, that totaled to 2,365 pages and 36.9 hours of listening, which I think is my best month ever for audiobooks. My average star rating was 4 stars and my average Corpile rating was 7.43, which again is the highest it's been this month. So as always, I'm going to start with my lowest rating, build up to the highest, and I'm going to keep this spoiler free, but I think one book I might have to do a spoilery video because there are opinions, and that book, which unfortunately is in 8th place and unfortunately in my mid-year freakout was the most disappointing read of the year so far, was In the Lives of Puppets by TJ Klune. I loved the first half of this book. I would even say the first 2/3 I thought, well, I didn't love, I was enjoying. I had a few laugh out loud moments. I absolutely love Rambo as a character. I just think he is the sweetest little robot ever. But I felt, compared to some of the other books that I've read of his, I just didn't quite get the same feelings of joy. And the final third of the book, it lost me completely. I didn't like the big build-ups to absolutely nothing. It felt like the plot went nowhere, and I just feel like it didn't really end very well. It just kind of fizzled and did nothing, and these huge big things happened that were world changing and world altering, and yet no follow-up and nothing, and it just kind of very disappointed in it. I have mentioned a couple of times in various places that I really did not like the asexual rep in this. More specifically, the fact that we're told repeatedly that Victor is asexual, and yet 2/3 of this book is just stuffed full of sexual jokes and innuendos that just felt very uncomfortable, considering the main character is in fact asexual. It didn't sit well with me, and yeah, it just gave me a bit of ick, to be honest. So this got 3 stars and was 5.71 on Corpile, and it was unfortunately my lowest rated book for the month. Then we're going to switch over to my Kindle, and in 7th place we have Slick by Juniper Jordan. This is a very quick novella that's 32 pages and is about 2 pirates who one takes over and plunders the other pirate's ship, and in the process gets a little frisky and they end up having sex. And I'm not going to lie, I gave this 10 for atmosphere because, oh boy, was it written very, very well, and it definitely had me going a bit blushy in the face and like, whoo! But because of it was only 32 pages and the fact that it literally was, come into my office, study, I'm going to have sex with you now. So it was kind of like a 2 for characters and a 1 for plot, because there wasn't any kind of plot in there. This was just purely smut. But I felt it was very well written. The atmosphere was fantastic. And so because of that, it did end up getting 3 stars, despite the very low plot and character stuff. And it wasn't as bad as I was expecting it to be, but it was also as bad as I expected it. That got 3 stars and was 5.71. I realised I said the wrong number for Puppets. Puppets got 5.43, so this was the 5.71. In 6th place we have the graphic novel Wotokoi, Love is Hard for Otaku by Fujita, and this was really cute and fun. I picked this up when I was in Birmingham a couple of weeks ago. I just really enjoyed it. It did get 4 stars and it got a solid 7, so it's just like that's the lowest number for a 4 star. So got 4 stars, and I will talk more about this in an upcoming vlog that will be coming out in the next sort of 6 to 8 weeks. 5th place we are heading back to the Kindle, and we have the first book that was picked by Ren for their reading club, which is the Queer or Not book club, and this was Of the Wild by E. Wambaim, and I really loved it to begin with. Then it kind of fell, I think because I was busy with work and stuff, I kept like putting it down, and it was also a lot more emotionally heavy than I was expecting, because it does deal with child abuse and recovery, and it was just very much, it gave me some feel, and it made me reflect on a few things from my own childhood, and I had a couple of revelations about myself that honestly nobody should be having at 7:30 in the morning when they're on the bus on the way to work. That was just a weird experience, to say the least. But I absolutely adored all of the children in this, and it's just following this journey with these children, and there are these like evil spirits that are trying to destroy everything and steal the children. And it was just a beautiful story about that kind of recovery and finding family and processing trauma in a different way. And it was very beautiful, but like I said, there were a couple of points where I was a little bit not bored, but I was just kind of like, can something more happen? And I also had the feels that I was kind of not expecting. And then right at the very end, I just got a little bit confused. There was one bit, I can understand the style choice and I can understand why it was written the way it was, but for me personally, it kind of got me a little bit confused and I started to lose track of actually what is happening. So as a result, this one also got 4 stars, so it is still a really lovely book, and it's definitely an author I want to keep a lookout for, and got 7.71 on Corepile. Coming up in 4th place, we have a reread of Nimona by N.D. Stevenson, and this is a reread because there is a series, I think it's a film rather than a TV show, but there is a movie coming on Netflix very soon that has been adapted from this, so I wanted to reread it so I knew what was going on, so the film would probably make a bit more sense. And I ended up, for the second time in 2 months, I ended up giving this a higher rating than I gave it the first time. The first time I gave it 3.5 stars, this time I gave it 4 stars, and I just had much more fun. I think it's because the first time, again, I kind of got a little bit lost towards the end and the plot just sort of seemed to go a bit too chaotic and not really logical, whereas this time I was a bit more with it. So I'm wondering if last time I just wasn't as focused as maybe I should be. But it was just really fun. Nimona is a really interesting character with her shape-shifting, and then when we find out that there's deeper layers to her later on, it's just really awesome. And I also really liked the undertone tension relationship between these two characters, the good guy, the so-called good guy and the so-called bad guy. And it really was a story of like things are not always as they seem, and I just had a great time with it. For this one, it got 4 stars and was 7.86. In 3rd place, we have a new book series to me, and this was one of my audiobooks. This was Shadow of the Fox by Julie Kagawa, which is the first in the series. And I kind of just picked it on a bit of a whim because I was like, I wanted a book that was less than sort of 15 hours just to get me through the last week of June. So I just put it on, and it had multiple people doing the narrations, which I always really like when you've got a different cast. And yeah, it was really, really, really good. I loved all of the Japanese mythology. Japanese mythology is my favourite area of any kind of mythology. The main character is a kitsune, which everyone knows I love kitsune. They are one of my favourite aspects of any kind of lore and mythology. The characters were all really solid. Even the plot was really solid. I think I gave it a 9 for plot, which, you know, I don't often give out 9s and 10s for plot, so it was really good. And a few things that happened I didn't expect to go the way it went, so I was like, wow. And the ending, I was just like on absolute tenterhooks, like what's gonna happen here. It starts off as 2, then becomes 3, then becomes 4 main characters. And it's just amazing because he's like a demon slayer, she's a kitsune, and they kind of end up working together to get this scroll to get to this temple. It was giving me very Inuyasha vibes, so I was like, this is amazing. And yeah, I just had a really, really cool time with it. That one was 4.5 stars and got 8.17. My second 4.5 star read is one that a month ago I would never have said was going to be a 4.5 star read, and yet I had such a fantastic time with it. And it was another, I'm noticing all of my audiobooks have ended up in the top 3, so I'm starting to wonder if maybe audiobooks is actually my preferred way of doing reading these days. But I gave Daughter of the Siren Queen by Tricia Levenseller the number 2 slot. I really enjoyed it. It was the second book in the duology. I can safely say that I have completed that series now. I just felt all the characters were great. Little Rosalind, who is the 8-year-old girl that lives on the ship, and she's the daughter of one of the crew. She was amazing and was absolutely the star of the book for me. I love that Tricia Levenseller didn't like pull her punches, so at no point did I think that everyone was going to be safe. And there were a couple of character deaths in this that I was like, oh, oh, okay, didn't see that coming, or the way it happened, I didn't see that coming. And again, I actually gave this I think I gave it a 9 again for plot. Oh no, I gave it 8 for plot, because it was a really logical plot. It was very, very solid, but I did feel the ending was very rushed. I would have liked to have gotten more time with a certain thing that happened. And I kind of felt that the aftermath of like the final confrontation slash battle slash, you know, the climax of the book, I felt the aftermath of that was just kind of like, yeah, that was done. And it was like, I wanted a bit more from the fallout of that and the repercussions and what's going to happen next. So yeah, I did feel that that was a bit rushed, and I know a few people have felt the same way about this, and it could just do with being spread out a little bit, and the aftermath just needs to be developed a little bit more. So that one got 4.5 and was 8.57 on Corpile. And then in first place, probably to nobody's surprise, especially if you have watched my mid-year freak out, first place absolutely solidly goes to Boyfriend Material by Alexis Hall. Not only was the writing exquisite and had me laughing so much, it was narrated by Joe Jameson, who is the god of narration as far as I'm concerned. This man can do no wrong, and he can take the most bland and boring book and make me want to listen to it and enjoy it. But this was already a stellar book, and his narration was just the cherry on top. The humour was dead on, the characters were fantastic, they were flawed without being horrible people. And because that happens quite often with a lot of romance books, I find that one of the romantic interests is almost irredeemable, and I feel like a lot of time authors are trying to make us like characters that are fundamentally problematic, and it's like, no. Whereas this, you could genuinely understand why each of the characters is the way that they are and the way that they worked through their problems. There were a couple of like moments where it was like breakup, whatever, or a big fallout and an argument, but they resolved it like adults and almost realistically, and I just felt it was a fantastic book. Luke's mum in particular, I loved her. Just some of my favourite quotes came from her. The moments where I was laughing so hard I stopped producing noise, and all it was just me sat there with tears rolling from laughter. That all came from her. And yeah, I just thought it was fantastic. I really understood both Ollie and Luke's anxieties. I connected really well with both of them for various things, and I had a really great time. And I have heard some really worrying things about the second book, so I have decided rather than jump straight into it, I'm going to give it a couple of months so that the hype from the first book doesn't ruin my experience of the second one. But there's also now going to be a third book in the series, and I think that one could be quite interesting. I had an absolutely amazing time with this, and it got to the point where I didn't want to wait until going to bed to listen to it and to continue it. So I just put my game on mute and did what I used to do a few years ago, where I was gaming with the audiobook on, because it was just that good. And yeah, it was fantastic. And now I really, really, really want to try more of Alexis Hall's stuff. And I can definitely see this being, if not my book of the year, it's definitely going to be up there in the top books of the year for me for this year. That one was a 9 and got 5 stars, and is only my 4th book of the year to achieve a 5-star status. That is my wrap up for June. Let me know in the comments how you got on with your reading. What was your favourite book? What was your least favourite book? Also, don't forget to let me know regarding with my book hauls, like should I add that into my wrap ups, or should I just leave those as separate videos and keep them as quarterly like I have been doing? Always interesting to get your input. But yeah, I'm gonna love you all and leave you. I hope you're all good. I hope you're staying safe, and until next time.